Hey guys, it's Sarah. Today I wanted to share a little bit about how I prep my December Daily album for the December Daily project. And I don't actually build foundation pages, but I do kind of have a system in place that works for me so that I can kind of set myself up for success and hopefully finish this project by the end of the month or by early January. So I wanted to share that with you and also talk a bit about my supplies and also share my December Daily album from last year. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into that and share with you my December Daily from 2015. Okay, so here are my albums from 2015. I wasn't able to fit everything into one album. I got these off of Amazon.com, and the binds, I mean, these are really, really cute. I love the white polka dot on the red, but the binding was not very big. These are actually pretty small, and so I just wasn't able to fit a lot of pages into each one. So I just split them into two, and that worked for last year, but I'm definitely excited to use the Ali Edwards binder from this year because it just has a little bit more space in there. So hopefully I can fit everything into one binder there. So for my title, I just used a very thin piece of transparency. This came from an office supply store, and I stamped some white snowflakes here. I added on a wood chip piece that came in the main kit, and I had just stuck some little yellow and pink enamel dots on top to serve as ornaments. I taped this December Daily rubber banner down right there, and I love having the first page as the transparency and being able to see the reason why behind it. I have the same plan for this year, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but I love that you can kind of see the reason why behind the main title there. So I have a little 4x6 card here kind of talking about my reason for doing this project. I have a transparency in this pocket. I had adhered some wood stars here, so I just stuck it onto the transparency, and that way these don't really shuffle around in that pocket. My idea for day one was to kind of rate all of the Starbucks holiday lattes. So I had listed them out here with a star, and I was going to kind of color them in depending on how I like them. You can see I didn't actually try all of them. I only tried a few and kind of kept drinking those throughout the season once I found my favorites. But it was still kind of a fun idea and was just kind of a fun way to kick off the 1st of December. And then on the right hand side, I have a full page photo of the red cup. On day two, I actually almost didn't document this day. This was the day that we had the terrorist attacks in San Bernardino, and I was feeling pretty down, so I thought about skipping it, but I ended up doing a lot of journaling. So I stamped on this oversized envelope piece and some snowflakes and kind of tied some ribbon around here, and then I just put a 6x8 card in here and did my journaling on there and kind of stuck some wood stars down there. And on this side I put in a piece of transparency. I had originally typed this but the ink kind of wiped off right away. It didn't stick on the transparency, so I went in there with a Sharpie and just used my own handwriting, which if you've watched my videos, you know that I'm not a fan of my handwriting as titles, so I had intended to go back and do something else there, but I didn't do that, and who knows, one day I might actually enjoy that. So it's there, it's staying there, and it kind of is what it is. On day three, I talked about doing a lot of this year's holiday shopping online. So in this little bag, I put in everyone's holiday wish list and kind of snuck it in there. And on this 3 card, I did a little bit of stamping with some envelopes. On day 4, we went to Las Vegas. So I put this 3x8 card in here for some journaling. I took some photos there, and I decided to just keep this really simple and not even put them in a page protector. I just stuck 2 4x6 photos back to back and then hole punched them directly on the photo and stuck them in there. My title is on a transparency here, so I used these giant red chipboard alphas that came in the main kit, and I just stuck that onto one of these very thin office supply store transparencies. And I used some gold washi tape here just to kind of wrap up the four so that it stood out against the other alphas. I just wanted it to be a different color. I had actually tried to paint these, but I think the paint that I was using just didn't look good on there. So I decided to try just wrapping that in washi tape, and it's actually held up pretty well. This piece tends to come up a lot, but the rest of it is doing pretty well. We'll see kind of how it stands in a couple years, but for now it's doing pretty good. On day 5, we went to see La Rev, so I have the little brochure in here, and then I washi taped our tickets in and did a little bit of journaling on the back here. I have another transparency in here. Loved all of the transparencies that came in last year's kit. Those were so fun. I used every single one in my albums. And then day 6, I did some journaling about our Christmas cards. Day 7, I took a photo of all of the ornaments that we've collected from our travels, and I typed up the location that we got each of them from and just adhered them next to each ornament. So that's kind of fun to see that collection and see how we kind of add to that collection over time. I'm planning to do the same thing this year and document a couple of the ornaments that we've picked up recently. Day 8, I documented our wrapping paper. So I stuck in some wrapping paper pieces right here into these 2x2 pockets, and then I put in a full 6x8 photo of the rolls of paper there. I also love how this Christmas tree kind of comes out of the pocket. It's actually glued on the outside of the pocket, but I love when not everything is kind of symmetrical. So if there are pieces that can stick out, that's just kind of fun. It adds a little bit of interest to the page. Day 9, I talked about going to see Christmas lights around the neighborhood. Day 10, I put the lyrics for my favorite Christmas song. I took these into Photoshop and just kind of played around with the size of the fonts and the colors that I used there. And then I wrote a little bit about how this song was getting me in the holiday spirit. I have a 6x8 paper here. I love this photo of the Christmas trees and the snow. I just thought that was really beautiful. And I laid this transparency on top of it, and I love how this Mary, this is actually a chipboard piece that I adhered onto the transparency, but I love how it kind of overlays so that it says Merry Wonderland. That was kind of fun. And then day 11, I talked about some decorations in my craft room, how I kind of set up a little Christmas tree and tried to make it festive in there. Day 12, I went to the Renegade Craft Fair in Los Angeles with a friend of mine and talked about that. Day 13, I tried to document my workout, my holiday workout, or lack thereof, in December. Day 14 was my anniversary with my husband, and so I inserted the card that he gave me, and I also put a little collage of photos of us on the back here. So that was part 1. And the second part of December, I have this card from Studio Calico, another transparency that came in the kit last year. On day 15, I documented our Christmas tree and did the journaling just directly on the photo. I typed this up in Photoshop and then printed it out on the photo. Day 16, I wrote up just some of my holiday favorites. I love this. I'm definitely going to do this again this year. I have a photo, a 6x8 photo on one side, and then just a really simple journaling card on the other side. So that was fun. Day 17, I wrote out a letter to Santa and kind of what my hopes were for this season. Day 18, I documented our Christmas lights on our house, which was our little one-strand wonder, but it was our first year putting up lights, so I definitely wanted to get that in there. Day 19, we had some lunch with some friends, so I made one of these little flip-up pockets and did some journaling underneath there. Day 20, we went to Knott's Merry Farm. On this 6x8 piece of pattern paper, I just adhered some chipboard stars right there just to kind of embellish. Day 21, I talked about the weather. We live in Southern California, so the weather is really mild, and I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that. So that was day 21. Day 22 was talking about decorations inside of our house and our Christmas stockings and those kinds of things. Day 23, we made a special breakfast with pumpkin waffles, so I documented that. Day 24 was spending Christmas Eve with my family. Day 25 was just, Christmas Day was very chilled out, just, staying in our pajamas all morning, watching A Christmas Story. So I didn't have a photo from that day, so I printed out the movie cover from A Christmas Story and put that there. And then on this very thin piece of transparency, again, this is one of those office supply store transparencies. I had stamped Joy on there using black StazOn ink, and then I adhered some of these giant red chipboard numbers and stapled them onto the transparency. And then I have another transparency. You can see how much I love transparencies. They'll definitely appear a lot in this year's album as well. I put down these wood circles that came in last year's kit, and I was documenting our annual Friends Christmas party. So the 2 fell off of here. This should be the 26th, but yeah, just a couple of photos there. I actually didn't have anything for the back pockets here, but I definitely wanted to kind of finish it off. So I just took another piece of pattern 6x8 paper and I just adhered it directly onto the back part of these page protectors. And then I had an envelope from the Week in the Life kit by Ali Edwards. So I decided to just use this. I hole punched it here and then I stuck in all of the holiday cards that we had received. So that kind of sticks out of the top of the album, but I actually really enjoy when there are things that come out of a book or an album. It just kind of makes you want to peek inside, so that definitely doesn't bother me. I love having it like that. And that is it. Those are my 2 albums from last year's December Daily, and now I'm going to kind of jump into the supplies that I will be using for this year. Okay, so I try to keep everything pretty organized throughout the season so that I can kind of keep my desk clean and work on other projects. So I keep everything in 2 boxes. I have one box that came with my mini kit from Decorate, and that's holding all of my papers. And then I have a larger I think this is for photo storage. I got this at Michael's, and this is holding all of my embellishment pieces. So for this smaller box, I basically just stick in all of my papers. So I have my 3x4 cards on top here, along with my 4x6 cards, and then I also have my 6x8 cards at the very bottom here. So as I'm working on my album, I'll kind of get all of these out and put them on my desk. I tend to take quite a bit of time to choose what cards I'm going to use. It depends on kind of the colors that come out in my photos. So that can take a little bit of time, but I would prefer to kind of look through all of my cards as I'm working on my album, as opposed to kind of putting them in the pockets beforehand. It just works a little bit better for me that way. So I will take all of these out before I start working on my December Daily every single time and kind of sort through each of the cards. But this kind of keeps them all in one place, and then I can stick them back in here and kind of keep them in here when I'm not working on my project. And then in this larger box, I have all of my kind of embellishment pieces. So I have some red chipboard numbers. These are the leftover ones from last year. I have the white chipboard numbers that came in this year's kit. These came, I think, in the Week in the Life kit by Ali Edwards for this year. These are some really nice wood numbers. Some alphabet stickers, some sentiment strips, I have these tag numbers. I think these came in last year's kit as well. Lots and lots of stars. These are the tags that came in this year's main kit. I have a lot of random chipboard pieces that I've collected over the last few years. The tickets that came in this year's kit. These are some stickers that came in Holly Becker's mini kit. I have some little transparency shapes. These came in a Beautiful Messes December kit from last year. Some more stars. I think these were Heidi swap numbers that I got from Michaels. Some of the messy circles from this year's kit, which I plan to use. Another one of those rubber banners from last year's kit. And then I have this little glass dish that just has a lot of bits and pieces. Has some of these little acetate shapes, and then some of the plastic words, and just a lot of little pieces. And some of these like shaker pocket things, just anything that, you know, is kind of out and about and small, I just stuck in this dish. And then I'll have this next to me kind of while I'm working on my December daily album. But for the most part, I keep all of my products to kind of a minimal stash. I don't like to have too much because it just kind of complicates the process for me. In general, I don't like to have a lot of products just when I'm working on any project. I try to clear out my stash as much as I can. Just because I tend to get a little bit overwhelmed by too much product. So I like to know what I have to use, and kind of go from there. So this is my stash that I'll be using for this year. And now I'm going to go ahead and talk about my album prep. Okay, so here's my album that I will be using for this year. This is the Mary, Mary, Mary album that Jasmine Jones did for Ali Edwards' shop. And so on the inside cover, I adhered a wood star here. This came in the main kit. And I just used some red line tape to adhere that down. And it's really stuck on there. Like this works really well if you're planning to adhere something to the inside of your album, or just in general if you want something really stuck. I definitely recommend the red line tape. And then I also put down this little twinkle twinkle banner. This is a rubber banner that came in last year's kit. And then my title page here is this clear transparency sheet. This came in a Beautiful Messes December kit, I believe. I got it in one of their sales. And I just adhered a little wood snowflake on there using some dots, or some glue dots. And I probably would have used the same red line tape, but it was a little bit too thick to fit on these pieces. So I just used glue dots right here on the ends of some of the tips there. And then I love how I can see my reason why behind the clear transparency here. So I used, this is, I believe, from I Spy DIY's mini kit. This is the digital version of the 6x8 page that came in that kit. And so I used a couple of digital stamps. This December and the antlers are from Paisley Press's mini kit. Sorry. And the daily and mittens are from Jasmine Jones' stamp set. And so I love the way that you can see my writing and then December daily, the reason why behind this cover page. Like I just want to keep that kind of at the forefront of my mind as I'm working on my album this year. And so that part was just really important for me to kind of have like that. So those are my first two pages. And then I went ahead and put in a calendar. This is a calendar from Jasmine Jones, and this is the digital version of that 6x8 page. What I love about the digital kits is that you can reprint anything. So if for some reason I'm kind of crossing out a lot of things during the month, I can just reprint this at the end of the month and kind of make a final version, and not really have to worry about, you know, having only one copy. That's why the digital version is just so great there. It's also less expensive. So if you're looking to save a little bit of money, the digital kits are really great and you can just kind of print your own as you need them. And then for the stamping there, I used the Kelly Perky planner. This was the holiday planner set. And so I just kind of stamped some of the things that I know are going to happen. So obviously Christmas Eve and Christmas. We have a Friendsgiving planned on the 4th, our 3-year anniversary. New Year's Eve, just some things that I know are going to take place. I just added in there right now. And then I have some transparencies that I bought at Michael's. I would definitely recommend checking out Michael's that's close to you. They have a really great selection of transparencies right now, or at least they did at my Michael's. So if you're interested in that and you love transparencies, definitely try to take a look there. So there are some gold numbers here, and I'm thinking of just keeping this right here because I love how it kind of corresponds with the dates on this calendar. But the rest of the stuff that I have kind of towards the front of my album, I'll definitely move around and kind of spread it throughout. But just right now I have everything kind of at the front. So these are gold on the front and then pink on the back, kind of like a rose gold on the back. So that's really pretty. And then I have these gold polka dots. That's another transparency. And then on the back, again, it's like that pink color. There's also a white polka dot here. I adhered some wood trees down here. These came in Decorates mini kit. I had actually planned to use this as my cover page, so I had stuck something down here, and that's why it's kind of I don't know, like kind of gluey there. So I'm going to have to figure out how I can kind of cover that up. But for now, that's kind of in there like that. And then I hole punched a canvas bag here, and I just have some random tickets inside there. I'm not sure yet what I'll put inside, but I just kind of wanted to have this ready. Any of the elements that are kind of going to go outside of my page protectors, I just kind of want to have those hole punched and ready to go so that I remember to do that. And then I have some of these plastic, well, they are kind of plastic, these bags that are on the outside of, or just hole punched and put into my album. And then I had some leftover pieces of transparency. So these are not exactly 7 by 8, but I'm thinking I'll probably cut these down a little bit more and use them as dividers. And then I have the Remember pocket insert that came in this year's main kit. I have that there. And then I have all of my page protectors. And then in the very back, oh, it's already out. This is kind of what I do to plan out my project as opposed to building foundation pages. So I write out the days of the month here. I think they're actually 31 days. I'm going to have to add one there. But I write out the numbers and then I add in any of the activities that we have scheduled for that month. So like I mentioned, there's a Friendsgiving. I'm going to a craft fair on the 10th, our anniversary. Those things are added in there. And then I also try to think of some ideas of other things that I want to capture throughout the month. So I know I would like to put my gratitudes in there, do another ornaments page and some journaling about that. Again, I want to do my season favorites. I want to put together an Instagram collage that captures a day from, or captures a photo from every day. My friend's Christmas party that hasn't been scheduled yet. Eventually that'll get moved to the top. So kind of as I'm adding these into my album, I will cross them off here and add them up here. And that just gives me an overall idea of where I'm going on my album. So I never really feel stuck because I have ideas. So if there's something that's not happening on any given day, I can choose one of these prompts from down here and then use that for that day's documentation. Another great thing about this is that you can also kind of work ahead. So if you kind of get some momentum on one weekend, you can kind of think about, oh, what's something else that I can kind of do? I can take a picture of some ornaments and do some journaling about that. And that way you can even set yourself up for more success and get a little bit ahead so that if there's one day that you have to miss, you're not behind, you're actually ahead of the game. So That's just kind of my method. That's how I do it instead of building foundation pages, and that worked really well last year. I was able to finish my album the very end of December, so that's my plan again for this year. And that is it. I hope that kind of gave you some ideas for your album for this year, or at least got you excited to kind of start working on it. And I will write up a very detailed blog post kind of talking about what I mentioned in this video, and write up anything that I forgot to mention, and give some product information in case I didn't mention something in this video. But feel free to leave me a comment if you have any questions, and I hope you have a great day. I will see you in my next video.